And if it mattered to the honourable gentleman, perhaps he'd listen to my response instead of chuntering from the front bench.
Oh, passions were running high in the House of Commons yesterday, weren't there? Well, hello there, and I do hope you're all well. Now, yesterday, as I said, it was oral questions for the Secretary of State for Works and Pensions, and it was here on question 7, and the question was about the department will make an assessment for the reasons for which families in receipt of universal credit are using food banks. Well, the Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State at the Department for Works and Pensions, Mims Davies, was taking questions from the Shadow Secretary Jonathon Ashworth, and he clearly put the fault of people struggling on universal credit, also using food banks as well, squarely at the foot of the government.
Grateful, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Minister just said the DWP does not assess why people are using food banks. Well, perhaps she can go back to her private office after this and ask her officials to look into whether people are using food banks because they cut universal credit by £20 a week, because they cut it in real terms last year. Perhaps you could ask her officials if it's because the DWP is taking deductions from universal credit payments every week. Perhaps you could ask the DWP if it's because earnings are worth less than they did in 2007. Perhaps you could ask the DWP if it's because they put tax up on working people. Perhaps you could ask if it's because they crashed the economy and sent mortgages and rent through the roof. Perhaps you could ask the DWP if more people are using food banks because that's the price of 13 years of economic failure.
Calm down, Jonathon Ashworth. You're liable to do and have an aneurysm. No, I'm only kidding, but he's got a point, Ananias.
I thank the honourable gentleman for that point, and do point him under Labour to the 10p tax rate and the fact that we have doubled tax-free allowances. And I would say that food banks are important. They're independent charitable organisations where people in local communities can support each other. And this is a great example of the generosity of spirit in our communities. And if it mattered to the honourable gentleman, perhaps he'd listen to my response instead of chuntering from the front bench. And to remind him that we do take the issue of food security very seriously, and that's why we did add the internationally used food security questions to the Family Resources Survey in 1920. And the new statistics of the usage will help the government understand more about the characteristics of the people most in need, and we will continue, as we pledge and we're proving to do, to support the most vulnerable.
All right, what she said there. She seems to think that food banks are very important. In my book, they shouldn't be around, shouldn't need food banks. I'll tell you what I find quite bonkers, and I still do it now, is the fact that this party that have been in power for 13 years brought us austerity, dropping living standards, high energy costs and high taxes, still think that attacking the last Labour government is a winner. I don't think if you're in your first term of, or possibly your second term of office, you might get away with it, but after 13 years of Tory rule and gruel, you're not really going to get away, are you? But also, the one thing I did pick up was when I watched Jonathon Ashworth act this way, I wouldn't say I found it a bit fake, but I would say to me, it just didn't seem to suit him, if you know what I mean. He's not Dominic Raab, is he? And what I mean by that is he just seems like a too nice a person to act this way. He doesn't seem to be the one to give you that 1,000-yard stare, you know, with a mean streak. You know, he looks like somebody, if he loses his temper, you would just struggle to keep your face straight. Well, I would anyway. He just... Maybe it's just his grandstanding, I don't know. But it just seems a little bit too nice for me to be doing that. But what do you guys think? Let me know down below, and I shall bid you farewell and take care, my friends.